Hello and welcome to our interview with artist Hardeep Sahota. We're delighted to have you here today, Hardeep, to talk about your work and your practice as an artist. We'll be finding out about your work to help young people work towards their Bronze Arts Award. So first of all, the first question we have for you, Hardeep, is can you tell us a little bit more about the origins of Bhangra?
Hi, so Bhangra is a form of music and dance that developed in India hundreds of years ago, and around the time of partition, when India and Pakistan became two countries, there was a lot of migration, and Bhangra also kind of came with those migrating communities. And in India, it became very, very popular within films, and then with our families migrating to the UK, we brought that kind of art form of Bhangra with us, and around the world, wherever Punjabis or Indians actually went, they actually took that art form with them.
So why was it important for you to begin to compile this visual dictionary of Bhangra moves?
So for me, I've been performing Bhangra for about 20 years, and if I'd go to a function or a venue, and sometimes Bhangra used to be looked down upon, and I then thought about, well, why was this? Is it because it's got its folk roots when it's compared to kind of contemporary dance? And I wanted to kind of explore this a little bit more. So I thought, okay, well, I know some of the names of the movements, but I don't know all of them. And that kind of set me on this path, this journey to try and find out and explore the different movements within Bhangra. And there's no point just recording them on a bit of paper. I thought, okay, how can I share this? So I thought, okay, the best way now is using modern technology and to be able to record those and create short videos for those movements.
That's really interesting. Do you see the Bhangra lexicon as a type of language then?
Yeah, so the video are basically a resource. That's kind of the Bhangra lexicon as it was. But like anything I've done in the past, it's not just about doing the research behind it, it's how you actually share that experience and those ideas with others. So I then thought about, okay, well, light painting is something I really loved. And it's one thing I thought, okay, I really want to use the light painting and the Bhangra together to create a visual dictionary, as it were, and kind of start to analyze it in quite a different way. And using light painting, long exposure photography was a way of doing that, and kind of honing in on the movements and really kind of analyzing them through this art form.
So you said you are using the Bhangra lexicon to preserve the different moves of Bhangra, but how have those Bhangra moves been recorded in the past, and how have they been passed on from generations to generation?
So Bhangra has an oral tradition. That means the drummer usually teaches the dancers to actually do the movements to the actual the dole drum, and that's kind of just been passed down from one teacher to the student, and it's called Guru Shishya, so teacher student. It's never really been written down or documented as such. And then over time, I mean, even within my own lifetime, I've seen, how Bhangra is starting to change. And, from just dancing to a dole drum to putting the just the music on the hi-fi and just kind of dancing away, you can see how things have kind of changed. And for me, it was really important to kind of go back maybe to my granddad's generation to try and capture their stories about what the kind of Bhangra meant to them and what kind of movements were actually taking part then. So then that's my starting point. So I did it chronologically. And then also, if you go to different parts of Punjab in India, the movements are slightly different as well. So it's kind of bringing those ideas together and bringing it under kind of one umbrella to say, look, these are all the movements. I'm not saying that I'm the expert, but I'd love to learn much more about this, and it's kind of putting something together for those people that actually want to learn. And then, yeah, maybe, decades, centuries down the line, people might actually look back at this and think, yeah, this is a snapshot of what Bhangra used to be in 2021.
How do you imagine that the Bhangra lexicon is going to be used by people?
So the Bhangra lexicon, again, the resource, the videos are there for those who may be thinking, oh, I know this movement, I'd like to know what it's called or a little bit of history behind it. So there's a lot of research behind what each movement is and where it actually comes from. For those who just want to learn Bhangra, just for the sheer joy of that, I think that is, it's going to be a fantastic resource. And then the actual aspects of the visual photography and the light painting and the exhibition itself, that elevates the art form, and the exploration to a new level. This has never been done before, and Bhangra deserves not only academic study but also for artists to explore it in new avenues and use new technologies to really kind of explore the art form.
So you're an artist and a researcher, a dancer, a teacher. So how would you describe how all of these elements sort of come together in your artistic practice, and maybe which one came first for you?
I think first and foremost, I think being a Sikh, it means to learn. And I think, always having that kind of questioning mind, and that you find with most artists, you see how, they'll question the world around them. They'll try and respond to it using creative outputs. And I think that's really, really important. And for me, kind of finding out those answers and not just keep them to myself, I want to share these with the world. And, you can share them in lots of different ways. And I thought this was such a beautiful way of exploring movement and to be able to kind of share, those findings in a new kind of creative way. And that was what was important for me.
Collaboration is also clearly a really important part of your practice. How has collaborating kind of enriched your practice?
So collaboration is kind of at the heart of my practice. So, I don't just define myself just with as a dancer or a performer. Obviously that becoming, the visual elements as a visual artist, it's kind of part and parcel of who I am. And, it's that transdisciplinary work where you can, work with other people and kind of share your practice, but also learn from them. I love learning from Chloe while she was doing her performance, and kind of actually when you actually see the stills, you can actually begin to understand the movements much more. And, work with classical dancers, work with folk dancers. So dancers from, lots of different genres made me understand my own practice much more and appreciate theirs.
Mm-hmm. So can you explain the sort of the relationship between how the photographs that we can see here on the screen, how that grew out of the original lexicon that you started in, kind of collecting the moves and the videos and things? How did the images that we can see now grow out of that?
Yeah, so I did. So originally I was working with Yorkshire Sculpture Park on the Ignite project, and I was exploring light painting then. My first part of light painting was usually accidental, and if you keep your camera on a long exposure and you go across the light, sometimes you find some really beautiful accidental shots. So that was kind of my first experience of light painting, and then we had an actual. Went to a fireworks festival over in Blackpool, and taking long exposure photography with fireworks and different things like that really kind of captured my imagination. And it's something I've kind of played along with in the background. But at Yorkshire Sculpture Park, I was able to kind of explore light painting much more, and work with students and schools, local schools, to kind of really kind of hone my practice. And then with the Bhangra on one side and the light painting on the other, it was only natural. It was a natural progression to bring these two together for me to actually begin to explore my passion for Bhangra through the art form of light photography.
And what have you learned about kind of light painting through doing this?
So working with Tim Smith, so he's a photographer. So again, my journey, took me so far, but it was something that I wanted to explore further and kind of learn more. So Tim Smith was an amazing photographer that I worked with in the past, and having him take the photographs as I was doing the performance, and then kind of choreographing what I had in my mind's eye when we were working with other artists, is really kind of interesting, and kind of pushing yourself a little bit more to create bigger movements. Thinking about the lights, which lights to use. Some worked a lot better than others, and it's almost like picking up paints. So sometimes you have watercolors and acrylics, and sometimes some of those create different lines. It's the same kind of thing with the lights. Different lights had different textures, small LEDs, and this is one of my favorite actually, where it had series of LEDs, and they actually blended to create this kind of fire effect. So yeah, it was a really big learning process, and it's just having a bit of fun. I think that was kind of the most important thing.
So did any of the kind of experiments of combining the dancing and the light painting, were they kind of what you expected, or did anything surprise you? And you've talked a bit about that kind of experimentation.
Yeah, I think one thing that was so amazing when you see Rashmi's who did the South Asian classical dancing, when she was moving, you can see how that years and years and years of practice made sure that her hand movements and actually were exactly in the same space at all times, and the movements were so beautiful and clean. And then on the other hand, so Bhangra has elements of that, but it's also got elements of chaos, similar to like the break dancing, and that kind of that beauty in that chaos. I think that's what I really loved, and kind of having to try and trace with your eyes and using your mind's eye to think where the person was at that time and what movements they were creating to create those lines. I think that was really interesting.
Did it take you many attempts to sort of get it right, or did you just do it on the first go?
No, like anything, it takes so out of the images, out of the selection we have at the images, is probably at least 100 plus more that were actually taken, and many more before that, because you're constantly practicing. We're looking at the light levels. The ones we took at Yorkshire Sculpture Park, we had this 1 hour, the golden hour as we say, where it started to get dark and the light painting began to work and become more visible, and trying to kind of capture as many things as we could before it got dark. And then I think the other way was when I was talking to Tim about one of the workshops that we were doing together, just us two. I said, right, okay, Tim, you need to try and push me as much as you can as a photographer, and I need to be pushed as a performer. And then, because there were things in my mind that I wanted to create, and it took a lot of energy and a lot of effort to try and get there. And again, take after take after take. And some of these are, really have a lot of skill behind them, but then, there's always that little bit of kind of a chance, and always that thing that's not being expected that really works. And I think that's the beauty of art. I think that's what's so special about creating work like this.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to learn from things that don't go right as well as you develop in your practice. That's something that's a really important stage, isn't it?
Yeah, there was one picture where Chloe was doing a windmill, so she was doing a break dancing, and one of the lights that were attached went flying off, and it just created this beautiful line going off into the distance. Obviously it wasn't selected, but you know, it is those kind of those images that work really well. And for those for the students who actually want to understand how these were actually created, so lights were actually placed on different parts of the body of the dancers, and as we're moving, the photograph is kind of taken, and maybe for about 8 seconds. So this one was probably a little bit longer, because if you see, I've had to go all the way around. So between 8 and 10 seconds this might have taken. So you can see some photographs would have taken a little bit slower, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, some might have taken a little bit longer to actually take.
Fantastic. And I noticed that in quite a lot of the photographs as well, you can actually see the dancers, you can see the dancers' faces or the costumes, and often with light painting, that's something that you don't see. So was it kind of important to you that you could actually see some of the performers in the photographs that you were taking?
Yeah, it was really, really important. So light photography, it's not a new art form by any means. I mean, Picasso was exploring it, you know, a few decades ago, but the actual art form has a beauty in its abstract, so where you can't really recognize something. But for me, what was important is if someone's dedicated their life to create these movements, and these movements have so much skill and beauty within them, the actual person behind it should really be brought forward. So this is something I was learning with flash photography in and amongst the actual image. So we've got Rashmi here, and she's creating her beautiful movements, and then there's a photograph flash that's taken to actually show what she's wearing, to actually highlight her as a person in her full glory with her traditional dress. And I thought that was really important to try and see what the differences were between the dancers and the movements of the human body. I thought that was really interesting to try and explore.
And do you think it's important to celebrate our cultural heritage, and why?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've got such rich cultural heritage that we can kind of draw inspiration from. I find myself blessed to say I can draw inspiration from India and from Britain, and I have, you know, this cross-cultural kind of experience that I'm living, that I can actually, you know, draw inspiration from. And I think, you know, everyone should be, you know, proud of their heritage, and it's always lovely to learn about other people, especially through dance. I think it's such an exciting way to kind of see into someone's culture and their history and heritage, because many dance forms have got so many stories imbued within their performances, and you know, lots of little things kind of have a lot of kind of how can I explain it, kind of cultural identity and importance. So the flowers within Rashmi's hair, so my turban, and the way sometimes I wear my turban with like little tufts, and that harks back to traditional farming in India, where the goats would have like floppy ears, and you know, so little links like that I was learning along the way. And that's part of the dress, part of the costume, part of the storytelling that goes on with dance.
Fantastic. And so for the series of photographs that we're showing at Yorkshire Sculpture Park, you've also included, like you say, you've worked with different performers, different styles of dance. You've included, you know, the South Indian classical dance, break dancing, Irish dancing. Why did you decide to kind of add those into the mix with, because I know kind of where you started was obviously from Bhangra, and like, so obviously,
yeah,
you know, it's interesting to kind of celebrate other people, but why did you decide to include them in this series as well?
So I think it was that to say, so it goes back to that kind of initial inquiry, why you know, some folk dancers and contemporary dancers have that hierarchy, whereas, you know, I see that in this should all have this level playing field, because the amount of practice and performance and history that goes behind those dancers should be shared on a level playing field. Rebecca here, she knew so much about the art form of Irish dancing. And then again, with her photography through this, she learned so much. And, we could actually see, so here she's actually creating some kicks with the heels. And we could actually see that a lot of her upper body would actually stay quite stationary. And a lot of the movements are through the legs. And it's just so different to how, Bhangra is danced, but still, there are so many similarities. So it's lovely having those conversations about, finding out what's different and what's the same. And yeah, it was just such an exciting time to actually work with different artists.
Brilliant. And one of the things I really like about the images as well is how they feel so sculptural. It's about kind of living in a body and the shapes that we make, and actually seeing those shapes kind of charted like this makes them feel quite sculptural. And I know one of the things that you wanted to do for the exhibition and unfortunately weren't able to do because of the lockdown was to actually have a 3D print of some of these moves. I just wondered if you want to tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I've managed to get into the motion capture studio, and I've actually managed to capture the movements within the motion capture studio, and it's just amazing. At the moment, it's just a series of dots moving around, but I can recognize the movements from just the simple dots. So hopefully over time, I'm going to be able to try and translate those into 3D sculptures. And there might be abstract lines like this, but it's kind of knowing where they've come from and kind of seeing and realizing those ephemeral lines into 3D sculptures. So I'm really excited to carry on exploring, and I just can't wait to see where this journey takes me.
Are there any other art forms, dance forms that you would have liked to include in this series that you didn't quite get a chance, or is there anything else that you want to kind of
yes, so there's 2 or 3. I mean, one that I really wanted. So there was a group who are actually performing in Halifax, and I had a conversation with them, and they were a Chinese troupe of dancers and martial artists. And there's one particular dance form with it's like the long sleeve dance, and that was almost kind of an ancient method of what I was trying to do, because the long sleeves as the dancer was moving was kind of showing her movements of where they were. And then again, I did some work with some of the, there's a ballet dancer and she had the ribbon. And again, that's kind of a similar kind of thing where your hand and your movements are echoed through, whatever the artist or the dancer's holding. So that was one that I really wanted to do. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe future workshops and stuff will maybe lead to that.
And do you ever kind of draw from these images or anything, or do you kind of interpret it in that way yourself as well, or is that not something that you have done?
I think what happens is when I see the visuals, I try and think, well, I'd like to see, I'd like to explore this in other ways. So it's kind of taking, so Bhangra is basically the theme I work with. And then obviously I'm trying to create different artwork from it. One thing that I've not done is work with ceramics. So I think it was only about 2 weeks ago, I was thinking about some ideas about how I could show the power of the sound. So the dole drum is this amazing instrument that's used within Bhangra, and the kind of the resonance of it's very, very powerful. I mean, when I'm talking about that, I can actually see, that music or that rhythm in my head when I look at the visuals. But I wanted to kind of explore that within ceramics somehow, so I've not really thought about it. I've thought about the kind of as slip and how that, that movement can be expressed, not as the solid form of clay, but as its kind of more liquid form as a slip. So yes, I've been thinking in my mind about different ways of doing this. But yeah, and I think it's kind of coming up with different ideas and, just playing with things that you already know and work with other artists to create new things.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see how the properties of ceramics and clay would work with the shapes and the patterns that you're making with the Bhangra moves as well.
What I like about the work that we've created here, it's become abstract. I mean, obviously there's those with the visuals of the person, but these, I think, you know, the beauty that of just the line, that ephemeral line, you know, and clay has this vibrancy. And, you know, I think because when I actually did fine art ceramics at Breton, and for me, the clay has this, you know, a spiritual form as it's formed in fire, and then it's kind of used within lots of Indian customs. So the clay pot. So it's about kind of exploring those ideas a little bit. But yeah, so I don't know. I will do that. I'm probably gonna have to have a residency somewhere over in the summer. I go up to the lakes. I've got a friend there. She's got a kiln on site, so I might just do that.
So I know that for some of the photographs, you actually came to the sculpture park and shot the photographs in the sculpture park around the formal garden. And there are some other amazing locations, and I think some of them are kind of local to you. And I just wondered if you wanted to say a little bit about why those locations might be important to the photographs.
Yeah, so I think the environment is really, really important to me. I studied at Breton Hall, so Yorkshire Sculpture Park is almost like a second home to me. And the amount of the beautiful vistas that you have in and amongst, in the grounds of YSP, it's something that I wanted to explore. And I was really happy that I was, given permission to take some of the photographs there and do some of the light photography workshops there. And this one in particular, this was actually at Greenhead Park in Huddersfield. So I'm a Huddersfield lad, born and bred. And, there was certain things that I wanted to explore. And this was because I wanted to work with kind of a reflective surface. We found, obviously, it worked really, really well near the pool up at the top. So we actually, this was, I think, bonfire night last year, and it was like, it's freezing. And as I dance Bhangra, I don't normally wear, trainers, so I was doing this barefoot, and it's freezing. And again, we're doing it again and again, but it's still the actual visuals that actually created, it's just so worthwhile to go through all that effort, what other people might not realize that you actually have to do. But yeah, environment is super important, and the fact that it's local.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your journey as an artist?
Yeah, so art was my favorite subject at school. I had an amazing art teacher called Mr. Collins, and he let me kind of play with plaster of Paris after school. So I was creating lots of lovely sculptures. And then from there, it's one thing that I really knew I wanted to do. So I went on to do a BTEC in art and design, because I knew I didn't want to do anything else. And that led me to coming to Breton Hall and doing fine art ceramics. And those 3 years was so amazing for me to practice and develop and be quite self-indulgent. I think as artists, we have this amazing privilege of kind of exploring our thoughts, our feelings, and the world around us. And then from there, I actually got married. So I thought, well, just being a traditional artist, I was thinking, well, I need something a little bit more stable. So I actually became an art teacher. It's something I wanted to do. I remember when I did my work experience at school, I went into the school. So I always wanted to be part of the arts and kind of teach art as well. So I became an art teacher. So over the 20 years, I've met so many amazing students that I've had the privilege of learning from as well. And, so many colleagues, and, actually developing my own practice, it was a little bit difficult because within teaching, you are giving a lot of your energy. And I think, as practicing art teachers, it's really good to, take some time for yourself to develop your practice as well. So I think that's, I've been really privileged to be able to kind of do the two together. And, when I've been showing my students the exhibition online, they've been, so amazed, and, they can't wait to come down and have a little look. So, yeah, so I think, I've been very, very blessed to be able to kind of explore what I'm passionate about, Bhangra, through academia and then obviously as an artist and as a teacher, being able to learn and kind of share everything I've learned.
Okay, well, thank you, Hardeep, for your time in talking to us. It's been really fascinating to learn more about the project and you as an artist and how this project has come about. So thank you. And hopefully this resource is going to be useful for the young people that are doing their Arts Awards. And if you're wanting to see more interviews with artists, then go and check out our YouTube channel. You'll find a lot more on there. And you can see Hardeep's exhibition at YSP until mid-September this year. So please go and see the artworks in person, and we hope you enjoy the exhibition. And thank you.